Hello, everyone. Tonight, we are heading somewhere you were never meant to see beneath a continent that forgot it was ever warm. It's not just cold down there. It's the kind of cold that snaps metal like crackers and turns your eyelashes into frozen needles. But underneath Antarctica's ice in the silent blackness below 2 miles of ancient snowpack, something moves. Something slow. Something impossibly old. You're not in a submarine. No, it's more like you're drifting in a dream. There's no pressure chamber, no blinking dashboard. Just the sound of your own breath like static in a hollow microphone and the sense that you've stepped into a room where history is still being whispered by sharks. You probably won't survive this. Honestly, no one really does. But that's part of the charm, right? So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Post your location and your local time. I want to know where you're tuning in from and whether the shadows there are still moving. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You sink. The water is thick, bitter with salinity and shockingly motionless. Somewhere behind you, the ice ceiling vanishes. You can't see it anymore. Not because it's far away, but because light has abandoned this place like a coward. A shape passes beneath. It doesn't shimmer, doesn't dart like tropical fish. It just glides. A fin tattered at the edge like parchment dips and rolls slowly. This isn't a shark like the ones you see on TV leaping into air like a monster truck rally. This one's moving like time itself, cautious, measured, indifferent to your presence. That's the Greenland shark. Somniosus microcephalus, the sleeper shark, known for being slow, known for not caring. Some individuals have been estimated to be over 400 years old, older than the printing press, older than Beethoven, older than the United States. One of them might have watched the sea freeze into a continent. One might have watched the last megafauna drown beneath rising tides. They move in slow circles beneath Antarctic shelves now. This wasn't always their territory. They're typically found in the North Atlantic, but reports quiet ones hint at a deeper, colder migration. A population possibly trapped or maybe guarding something even older. It's not proven, it's not disproven either, which makes it irresistible. You follow one. It's massive, maybe 5 meters long, which isn't unusual. Its skin is gray and bruised-looking, textured, like something that was never meant to be touched. Parasites dangle from its eyes like ragged streamers. It's blind, but it knows you're there. Not because of movement, because of heartbeat. Your own thumping pulse must sound to it like a drum solo in an empty cathedral. You try to slow it down. Good luck with that. The shark keeps going. You feel like you're being escorted through a library of the dead. Around you, the ice presses down jagged ridges sculpted by centuries of pressure. You don't hear anything. No whale song, no sonar pings, just the low, distant moan of glacial tension like a door slowly creaking open in a stone house. Historians still debate whether these sharks were known to ancient cultures. Norse sagas mention sea monsters with flesh too poisonous to eat, eyes rotting with worms and mouths that only open after a full day of watching you. Sounds familiar. Here's an odd fact. The flesh of the Greenland shark is toxic to humans unless it's fermented underground for months. The Inuit call it hakarl. And if you've ever wondered what ammonia-marinated gym socks taste like, that's your answer. Gordon Ramsay once spit it out on camera. If that's not an endorsement, I don't know what is. Back down here, things get darker. Not visually, you're already blind. No, something emotional tightens. The pressure doesn't feel physical anymore. The shark is leading you through what looks like a canyon of fossilized basalt black columns thrust up from a time when this place wasn't frozen. You brush one. It's warmer than the water around you, faintly, like it remembers magma. The shark disappears into an arch, an ice tunnel scoured smooth by ancient tides. You hesitate. You know what happens in horror movies when you follow the thing. But you're not watching a movie. You're part of one now. Except nobody's holding the camera. The only witness is the continent. You follow anyway. The tunnel hums. It's a low resonance, almost like a dial tone. You're not sure if it's in the water or in your head. Sharks are known to detect vibrations in electromagnetic fields using special organs called ampullae of Lorenzini. You've got no such tricks, just curiosity and increasingly questionable judgment. You come out the other side into a sudden basin. It's like entering a submerged cathedral, wide, empty, and somehow waiting. You sense more sharks now, not many. 3, 4. It's hard to count something that refuses to move. They drift like pieces of night circling slowly in a pattern that doesn't make sense unless you're counting time in centuries instead of seconds. One of them passes directly in front of you. You can't see its eye, but you feel it watching. If you blink, it might be gone. If you don't, it might never leave. And then softly, something brushes your leg. Not a bite, not even a bump, just a touch. Like a whisper in a language you almost recognize. The kind of language that isn't taught. The kind of language that you remember only when dreaming. The shark doesn't speak, obviously, but somehow it says everything at once. You don't need language when a gaze has watched the continents drift. You hover mid-basin surrounded by those slow orbiting shadows. That one brushing past you, it loops back around now distant but angled. Not curious, not cautious, just observant. Its eye, clouded with age, seems to shimmer for a moment. Not from light, there is no light, but from history. Layers of time like rings in a tree or sediment on a seafloor. Greenland sharks have the longest known vertebrate lifespan on Earth. One female was carbon dated to be around 392 years old, give or take 120. That means some of them were already swimming through icy blackness when Shakespeare died. That's a lot of time to gather memories, even for something that probably doesn't know what an iPhone is. You turn slowly, following the curve of the basin wall. Thick ice hangs over the edge like a frozen curtain. Above you, well above, in the sense that gravity still exists, is a wall of pressure. The Antarctic ice sheet can be over 2 miles thick in places. That's a dome of ancient snowfall pressing down since before the first Egyptian pharaoh tied on a crown. And yet, down here under all that weight, something survives. These sharks aren't supposed to be here, remember? Somniosus microcephalus is a northern species. Yet rumors, grainy footage, even a few deep-sea net captures suggest something incredibly similar now drifts beneath Antarctic shelves. Maybe they migrated. Maybe they were trapped when currents changed. Or maybe they were always here, part of a lineage even older, something no biologist has cataloged yet because, well, who volunteers to dive under Antarctica? You ease forward watching the slow undulations of the shark's tail. Its movement is more dream than muscle. No urgent propulsion, just slow momentum in a gravity-drenched ballet. And here's something strange: they don't seem to breathe like other fish. No constant mouth-gill rhythm, no panicked gulps. It's like their metabolism was designed by a glacier. You float closer to one, just close enough to spot a faint scar beneath its dorsal fin. Not fresh, not new, deep, long-heeled. A sharp-edged linear cut, slightly too perfect. Human-made. Historians still debate whether ancient mariners ever reached polar waters. Some fringe theories claim Phoenicians sailed farther than they admitted. Others suspect Polynesians may have touched the fringes of Antarctica centuries before discovery. But this mark, it doesn't look like a recent propeller hit. It looks carved, deliberate. Of course, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just ice scrape. Or maybe it's the first written word you've seen in hours. An odd fact: sharks don't sleep like we do. At least not in the traditional sense. Some rest one side of their brain at a time. Greenland sharks seem to take this further. Their entire body can slow to a state so still, so low energy it borders on suspended animation. You'd think they were dead until they turn and look at you like you interrupted their nap. The one closest to you does exactly that now. Not aggressively, not even urgently, just a soft roll like it's changing position to avoid a current you can't feel. Its eye passes yours, milky and parasite draped. The copepod hanging from its cornea sways like a seaweed banner. If there's such a thing as dignity underwater, this shark wears it like armor. You wonder if it saw Pangea break. Not the literal moment plates drift over millions of years, but the era. That boundary between Earth's unified continent and its fractured lands. These sharks or their ancestors swam before continents split, before Antarctica drifted south and froze, before mammals ruled, before cities, before history. They've lived through 5 mass extinctions. That's more than any political system has managed. And they didn't just survive it, they slept through it. While empires rose, burned libraries, built monuments, and launched satellites, these sharks just kept swimming through the dark. There's a strange comfort in that. Around you, the others begin to fade slowly like ink dispersing in still water. They don't flee. They just become less visible. Shadows folding into deeper shadows. One by one, their outlines dissolve against the rocky slope and the under-ice cliffs. The one with the scar remains. You drift toward it uninvited, but not unwelcome. The shark adjusts again, not a threat display, just acknowledgement. As if to say, you've come this far, you might as well see. It guides you to the edge of a crevasse. A trench running deeper than you expected, like a throat in the seafloor. Blackness at its core isn't just absence of light. It's something richer, thicker, like the dark itself has been aging here. You hover, below movement. Not fast, not sudden, just present. A ripple through the darkness, a shape, another shark, or something else entirely. The scarred one circles back, and for the first time you realize it isn't alone by choice. It's watching, not guarding, not hurting. Watching something down there. You feel that quiet, waiting patience. The kind of patience that only comes when you've lived longer than ice. Some researchers believe that beneath the Antarctic ice ecosystems exist that predate recorded history. Isolated lakes, trapped sea vents, sealed caverns with their own biospheres. No light, no surface interaction, just microbial kingdoms and possibly more. No proof, only whispers. That shape stirs again. You begin to drift downward, pulled by gravity, curiosity, or both. The shark does not follow. Because what lies deeper than the memory of land, you're about to find out. You lower yourself into the crevasse feet first, as if descending through a doorway that hasn't opened in millions of years. It doesn't feel like falling. It feels like being allowed. The water grows thicker, if that's even possible. Your ears ring slightly, not from pressure, but from silence. That deep, cosmic kind of quiet where your own breath starts sounding suspiciously loud. The darkness deepens, then it breathes. A pulse. Faint. One beat. Then another. 12 seconds later. Your heart, in contrast, is tap dancing against your ribs. It's hard not to feel embarrassed about it. Somewhere in the ink-black void, a creature exists whose heart beats once every 12 seconds. You count them now. 1. Wait. 2. That kind of slowness isn't laziness, it's survival. The Greenland shark's heart rate is one of the slowest of any vertebrate. Fewer beats mean less oxygen burned, less energy used. Their entire body runs like a very old watch, accurate, ancient, and in no hurry. You think of modern life, panic alarms, 24-hour feeds, microwaves, status updates. Up there you sprint through decades. Down here they drift through centuries. Down here they don't run, they wait. And yet, the shark lives. Thrives in its own glacial way. Some biologists believe its organs are tuned so precisely to the cold that speeding them up would kill it. You envy that kind of dedication to the chill. You drift past a rocky ledge and there, resting against the silt, another shark. Smaller, younger maybe. Its eye flicks as you pass. That same haunting, parasite-draped stare. But what captures you is its chest. That slow expansion, barely perceptible. A rising, a fall, 12 seconds. You try to match it. Inhale, hold, exhale. Spoiler alert, you're terrible at it. Most creatures would starve or freeze here. But Greenland sharks are opportunistic scavengers. They eat polar bear carcasses, dead seals, maybe the occasional squid foolish enough to blunder into reach. And some researchers report strange things in their stomachs: deer bones, moose hooves, even a boot once. Not kidding. Historians still debate whether these meal oddities suggest behavioral quirks or just dumb luck. Some even speculate sharks might track migrating ice flows carrying animal remains like ghost trains bearing snacks. Others think the sharks just bump into anything edible and politely consume it. Here in the Antarctic depths, though, there are no reindeer, no hikers, no floating sled dogs. So what are they eating? You descend farther, and the question takes on weight. The crevasse narrows. You twist your body sideways, limbs brushing cold rock. Not sharp, but close enough to remind you you're not supposed to be here. Another heartbeat. Not yours. You feel it in your bones now. A low-frequency thrum barely distinguishable from tectonic background noise. Except this one feels personal. You remember reading that Greenland sharks don't hunt so much as ambush. They move slowly, letting their prey come to them. Which makes sense. When your heart beats slower than a metronome on tranquilizers, you can't exactly chase down a dolphin. Yet, there's something unsettling about that strategy. What kind of creature just waits forever until something dies near it? Maybe one that dreams. That's the thing, right? Scientists still aren't sure if sharks dream. But some behaviors, slow turns, unprovoked shifts, eye twitches hint at possible REM-like activity. If they do dream, what would they even dream of? You picture it now: slow-moving silhouettes of whales long extinct, memories of continental shelf collapses, a rerun of the Permian extinction broadcast nightly, or maybe just the smell of rot playing like a lullaby. You reach the bottom of the crevasse. Not a cave exactly, more like a sinkhole in the ocean floor. The walls around you shimmer faintly. Bioluminescence. No, not quite. More like pressure-induced flickers, flashes born from stressed mineral pockets. The seafloor here is breathing too. And then you see it. A carcass. Massive. Undecayed oddly. Possibly a whale, or... No, that shape's wrong. Long tubular ribs. A fluke that curls up at the end. The flesh is pale blue, not gray, almost translucent. You float closer. The skin is mottled with sucker scars and deep gouges, as if it fought something on the way down. Something with teeth that knew exactly where to bite. You glance back. Two sharks now hover at the rim of the sinkhole, staring down, not at you, but at the carcass. Their movements are still slow, reverent. No frenzy, just observation. One of them noses downward, barely brushing the exposed muscle. Then, a bite, not fast, not violent. Just a slow turn of the head, a quiet pull, a tear like silk in cold hands. No blood spills, just a thread of fibrous meat unraveling into the water. Another heartbeat, 12 seconds. It's not feeding, not really. It's something else, a memory, a ritual, a dream maybe if you still believe in those. Here's an odd fact. Greenland sharks don't reach sexual maturity until around 150 years old. That means the creature slowly tugging meat from this fallen beast has only recently become an adult by its species standards. In our world, it'd be dead of retirement. Down here, it's just hitting puberty. The rest of the carcass stirs slightly. Not from current, from something underneath. You back up involuntarily. Your leg hits rock. One of the sharks drifts lower, unconcerned. A tail. No, an appendage. Something flexible, boneless, reaching out from beneath the corpse. It pulls, just a little, like it's tucking in a blanket. The younger shark doesn't move. Neither do you. Historians still debate whether consciousness requires rapid brain function, But down here, you're starting to suspect that slowness isn't ignorance, it's patience. The heartbeat pulses again. 12 seconds. Then silence. Whatever dreams here, if it dreams at all, it dreams slowly, one beat at a time. And you've just stepped into its REM cycle. You don't blink. Not because you're brave, but because blinking would mean losing track of that slow, boneless limb now curling under the strange carcass. It doesn't flail. It doesn't lunge. It just coils like smoke, remembering how to become solid. The Greenland sharks stay put. Silent witnesses. You've come to realize they're not predators in the traditional sense, not apex hunters, more like archivists, living gravestones with gills. The tugging stops. Whatever was under the corpse withdraws, leaving behind only a faint silt cloud like disturbed memory. You feel your throat tighten. It's not fear exactly. It's the kind of discomfort you feel when something in the room has just changed, but no one else has moved. Up above, another shark circles in a slow parabola. You squint. This one looks bigger, older. The skin around its mouth sags in long folds like it's been thinking too long. You're not even sure sharks can frown, but if they could, this one's mastered it. Feeding on nothing, that's the real mystery. Down here, there's no fish darting around, no schools, no krill clouds, yet the sharks live. How? Scientists argue about it. Some suggest slow metabolism lets them survive on a few scavenged meals a year. Others propose bacterial mats around hydrothermal vents. Some even whisper about chemosynthetic worms. But the truth, no one really knows. Not for these sharks. Not down here. You drift toward the carcass. The pale fluke is still visible, bent like a question mark. You hover near one rib longer than a man's height and curved like a cathedral arch. It creaks, not from you, from something inside it. Expanding, contracting. You realize with a chill this creature might not be dead. The tear in its side still glistens. No rot, no bloat. If it died minutes ago. If it is dying, you might be watching a species no one's ever documented. Its face remains hidden, tucked under a ledge of rock like it's ashamed. Or asleep. And then you smell it. Not through your nose, there's no air here, but through the skin, the way pressure and temperature deliver chemical stories. It smells like cold iron and burnt meat. A scent that doesn't belong here. You're not sure if it's coming from the corpse or from whatever tugged it. One of the smaller sharks moves forward now. It glides over the creature's midsection, its fins barely flicking. It leans in and bumps its snout against the pale flesh. Nothing. Again. A pause. Then the shark opens its mouth. No snapping, no twist. It just latches on, jaws parting like an antique door hinge. It clamps and holds. You've never really seen a shark feed like this before. There's no violence, rolling, no water-clouding frenzy, just a slow compression like someone sucking marrow from a timeline. Its jaws are made not of bone, but cartilage. Greenland sharks have some of the weakest bite forces among their peers, but they compensate with suction. A kind of slow grinding draw. Imagine trying to drink a milkshake through a paper straw for 3 days. Still it works. You hear a low groan as the flesh pulls away. The sound isn't wet. It's dry, brittle, like peeling old wallpaper off a haunted wall. The other sharks begin circling closer now. They don't interfere. They don't jostle. It's like a polite buffet. Everyone knows they'll get their turn eventually. And that's what unnerves you most. This isn't feeding, it's remembering. Reverence disguised as appetite. Here's an odd fact. Some sharks, like the Greenland species, carry toxins in their flesh, methylamine oxide, that make them inedible unless processed. But those same chemicals also stabilize enzymes in freezing temperatures. In other words, their meat preserves itself. It's like they're meant to last. A sudden vibration startles you. Not from the carcass this time, but the rock shelf above it. A deep tremor. You feel it in your molars. A soft, rhythmic twitch. Not tectonic, not random. pulsing, repeating, like footsteps. You look up. Nothing. And yet the water moves, slightly. A slow churn, like a current that shouldn't exist. Historians still debate whether animals can sense earthquakes before they happen. Dogs barking, fish schooling, sharks fleeing. But down here, it seems like the sharks feel something deeper. Shifts not of crust, but of time. Something has stirred. The larger shark rises from the basin now. The one with the face like an old philosopher. It turns slowly, eye-scanning you without malice. Then it nudges the younger one aside, not forcefully. Just a shift of presence, a reminder of rank. The bite transfers. The younger one lets go, and now you see its teeth, hourglass-shaped, worn flat near the gums. Some are missing entirely, not rows of razors like a great white. These are teeth that endured centuries of dull work, grinding, pulling, never puncturing. They've evolved not for attack but for persistence. You try not to picture what they've chewed through over the years. Another tremor, louder. The whale thing jolts, then collapses fully onto the basin floor. Its fluke twitches once, then stillness again. Something below is shifting. One of the sharks swims directly over the hole beneath the carcass. You think it's guarding it. Then you realize no, it's listening. Hovering above fin tips angling like antennas. It rotates in slow spirals, reading whatever is stirring down below. You float upward a few meters. Instinct. Like someone rising out of a basement where the air has gone wrong. And you're not wrong. A long crack snakes through the sea floor beneath the dead creature. A vent numb. It's too controlled, too clean. Out of it rises a thin plume, not gas, not water, color. Soft green, almost bioluminescent, thread-like. It coils upward, brushing the shark's underbelly like silk. The elder shark doesn't flinch, but it begins to ascend slowly toward the upper crevasse rim. The others follow, forming a loose procession, not fleeing, not retreating, leaving. You realize what you're seeing now. The sharks feed on the dying, but they avoid the awakening. You're alone now, or at least the sharks are gone, and that suddenly doesn't feel like an improvement. They left like elders leaving a room before the ritual starts. As if they've seen this before, as if they've made peace with whatever comes next. You remain hanging in the slow current like a question no one wants to answer. Below, the plume continues to rise, thin, green, oddly gentle. Not like smoke, more like memory uncurling. It swirls once, then stretches toward the ceiling of the basin as if reaching for something it once lost. It doesn't glow. It pulses, like breath, like thought. You drift backward, careful not to kick up silt. Not that it would matter down here. No one's watching, except maybe it. The plume thickens slightly. You notice now that it's not coming from the creature, but from the seam beneath it, the crack that widened under the weight of the dead or sleeping whale thing. And here's the strange part. The plume doesn't dissipate into the water. It keeps its shape, as if the water's density is just a polite suggestion. Something brushes your back. You twist startled, but there's nothing. Just open water. Still, the sensation lingers, like being tapped on the shoulder by someone who immediately vanishes. You remember some ancient cultures believed water was a veil, not a barrier. That the sea wasn't filled with monsters, but memories too heavy to remain on land. Down here, it's hard to disagree. Historians still debate whether the Antarctic region, especially its subglacial lakes, has remained truly isolated for millions of years. Some say pockets of life continue to evolve without interruption beneath the ice. Others think these lakes are sterile tombs. But Lake Vostok, buried under more than 2 miles of Antarctic ice, was once warm. Geothermal heat, a sealed oasis. And if it could hold life, what's to say something like this didn't crawl out? You realize your fingers are trembling, not from fear, from cold. Because your suit wasn't made to handle this kind of ancient poison. The water temperature hasn't changed, but something's seeping into your thoughts. Slow, like fog under a door. Not language, not even images. Just impressions. Hunger, waiting, waking. The whale-like corpse twitches again. No doubt this time. The whole body flexes subtly, as if testing itself, as if waking up from anesthesia and stretching old, unused limbs. You remember an odd fact you once read? Some sharks can survive decades after being caught and stored in icy conditions. They've been found alive in nets long after presumed dead. One even bit a fisherman's boot an hour after being hung from a pole, which leads to a very unsettling question. What if that corpse was bait? The plume now unfurls fully. It brushes the stone ceiling of the basin and then recoils, not repelled, just calculating. You inch upward, arms out. You shouldn't be here. You don't even belong in this era. Beneath you, something shifts. The silt stirs in a perfect circle, a whirlpool without motion. Pressure builds not from above but below. You feel it in your sinuses and your teeth. Your bones ache like tuning forks out of sync. And now the color changes. Green fades to yellow, not bright, not sunshine, more like the bruised light behind an eyelid. You rise another few meters. The crevasse walls narrow again, and you brush past jagged outcroppings of basalt and something stranger, organic. No too rigid. Coral-like structures, maybe. Except coral doesn't grow in utter darkness. And these look sculpted, patterned, like vertebrae stacked in slow spirals. The shark's long gone now. You kinda miss it. Below the corpse jerks once, then goes still. Then again, you freeze. It lifts. Not all of it, just the head, just enough to reveal a face. You expected something aquatic, sleek, finned. But this has no eyes, no mouth, only long ridges that curl back over a domed skull like folded wings. The skin is pale and translucent, revealing intricate veins, though you're not sure what they carry. Blood memory's venom. You can't move. The creature's head turns just slightly, and somehow you know it's looking at you, not with sight, with intention. Another pulse of that low thrum. The 12-second beat, except now it doesn't belong to a shark. Now it's coming from the crack. The thing isn't feeding, it isn't even dying. It's waking something else. You scramble upward, trying not to panic. You won't make it far, but it feels like something. Your flippers catch rock. Your shoulders scrape stone. Behind you, the greenish-yellow tendrils start to retract not back into the crack, but back into the thing, as if it's drawing back its breath. Your vision blurs. Your chest tightens. Not from pressure this time. From sound, a low harmonic vibration fills the water, just barely audible. You wouldn't even call it noise. More like a suggestion of music. Choral. Layered. Voices that never learn to end a sentence. Your lungs feel thick, like something inside is listening to the sound and trying to remember it. Historians still debate whether sound can travel through deep glacial ice. Some say it echoes for miles. Others claim it's absorbed. But right now it feels like every note being hummed by this thing is being absorbed directly into your spine. Then nothing. The plume disappears. The light fades. The ridged head lowers again. And once more it's just a lump of meat on a seafloor. Except now the crack is gone. Sealed shut. As if none of it happened. The sharks return slowly, orbiting you again, gently nudging past your shoulders. One of them swims over the creature, trailing its tail along the fluke. The others keep their distance. It's over. Or maybe it hasn't started yet. Maybe you were just allowed to witness the inhale, and the real exhale is still coming. You don't remember swimming away. Only that now you're higher in the water column, your limbs aching with effort you don't recall making. Around you, the sharks drift again in their slow ecclesiastical procession, somber and unhurried, like monks walking beneath a collapsed cathedral. Beneath your feet, the basin lies still. Whatever stirred beneath that crack has vanished or returned, or worse, decided not to leave yet. The creature on the seafloor no longer moves. It looks exactly as it did when you first saw it, distant, unknowable, and dead. Except you now understand that things under the Antarctic ice don't die the way surface things do. They pause. You rise further, passing into a tunnel veined with ancient frost where frozen bubbles cling to the walls like fossilized breath. You blink once, then again. There embedded in the wall of ice is a leaf, not a pine needle, a broadleaf, palm-shaped, fossilized sure but intact enough to make your scalp crawl. It's like spotting a lit candle inside a glacier. Historians still debate whether Antarctica was once a tropical land. But the fossil record says yes, 90 million years ago the continent had rivers, rainforests, and dinosaurs stomping through marshes. Back when the Earth was hotter and the poles weren't snow-globed into silence. You brush the frozen leaf. It doesn't break. It's rubbery, preserved by pressure and temperature so consistent it might as well be a time capsule. And you wonder what else exactly survived the thaw. The ice overhead moans, a long groan like a door slowly opening across eons. You can't tell if it's tectonic, glacial, or emotional. It's the kind of sound you don't hear as much as accept. And with that sound, you remember something else the last time Antarctica blinked. Roughly 15 million years ago, the Antarctic continent began to freeze permanently. But before that, especially during the Eocene and early Miocene, it was temperate, even lush. Fossils of marsupials, freshwater mollusks, and tree trunks have been found beneath the ice. Some suggest a species like the Greenland shark could have been here back then, drifting through jungle-fed estuaries, feeding on whatever wandered too close to the water's edge. Then came the cold, and not the kind you can outrun. You imagine that moment, the first snowflake falling on a palm frond, the river starting to slow, the air changing flavor. Did the sharks stay? Some believe they swam north following warmth. Others suspect they remained adapting, maybe not just Greenland sharks, maybe others. Stranger, deeper cousins. Ones that didn't need sun, or air, or even prey. You flip slowly in the water, looking upward now. You're approaching the underbelly of the Ross Ice Shelf, one of the largest floating slabs of frozen water on Earth. It's almost a continent in itself, bigger than France. And beneath it, the water is still lightless and old. You glance to your right. Another shark glides next to you. This one is different, smaller, sleeker. Its skin is patterned not uniformly gray, but streaked with pale bands like tree rings stretched across muscle. It watches you. No parasites, no foggy eyes. This one sees you. It twists slightly, turning belly up for just a second, a move no lazy Greenland shark should bother with. Then it rights itself again and kicks forward with sudden intent. You follow, your legs burn, lungs fluttering. The water ahead grows murkier, siltier. The shark leads you through an ice tunnel, this one thinner, and lined with dark mineral veins that pulse faintly when you pass, as if magnetized. You remember an odd fact: some sharks are known to detect electromagnetic fields generated by the Earth itself. A built-in GPS system. But what if something deeper than navigation was happening? What if the shark isn't just following lines? What if it's reading them? The tunnel widens into a chamber. It's not natural. No jagged ice here, just smooth curves like the inside of a giant's jaw. You spin in place. The walls have texture, rays, shapes. Carvings, no. Not human-made. Not language, but they repeat. Spirals, chevrons. Repeating barbed arcs that resemble both teeth and waves. You float closer and run your hand over the nearest ridge. It vibrates, not hard, just enough. Like it's humming with pressure from below. Like it remembers the ocean before the ice. The shark moves to the center of the chamber, then stops. Hovering. You drift toward it, cautious. It doesn't move. Then slowly it begins to rise vertical now, snout upward, tail down. Like a needle floating tip first. It's not swimming. It's ascending, suspended in a beam of something you can't see but can feel. Heat, no. That's too kind a word. Presence. The chamber begins to resonate. Very low. A harmonic tone you can feel in your teeth. The same one you heard earlier near the carcass, but now stronger, closer. The shark's eyes roll back slightly. Not in pain, in surrender. It's letting go of gravity, of caution. You suddenly realize this shark isn't leading you. It's showing you what it does when no one's watching. Historians still debate whether the ancient peoples of Earth recognized animal migration as ritual. Some say yes, pointing to cave paintings, totems, and bone arrangements. Others claim that's projection, that we're seeing ceremony where there's only instinct. But this feels like ceremony. The shark vibrates, not twitching, resonating. Its body is perfectly still, but a wave moves through its muscles, skin shivering with silent sound. Then silence again. You look around. Nothing's changed. And yet everything has. The shark sinks slowly back to horizontal rhythm as its slow glide and exits the chamber without looking back. You remain, because now one of the carvings is glowing. You've stopped breathing again, not because the air's gone bad, but because something inside you is waiting for the rest of the moment to arrive. The carving glows, faintly. Just a sliver of light around its edges. It pulses once, then fades, then again. Slow. Not Morse code, not binary. More like a heartbeat trying to remember itself. You reach out, fingers trembling not from fear but from anticipation. You touch the groove. It's warm. Warm. That's impossible, of course. You're under the Antarctic ice, submerged in water that should flash freeze your blood without a pressurized suit. And yet your glove picks up heat. Not strong, but steady. Like a stone left in sunlight. The shark is gone now. Left you here alone, or maybe deliberately placed you, because that glowing spiral, that's not decorative, it's a doorbell. A sound no. A pressure flares against your chest. It doesn't hurt, but it shoves. Like someone gently moving you aside without hands. The water behind you swirls and thickens. Then, without warning, the chamber deepens. You're not moving, but the room is. The wall in front of you folds back like an ancient curtain. Not sliding, not crumbling. It peels like layers of kelp, revealing another passage, long, narrow, ribbed. It looks disturbingly like a throat. You hesitate. Because you know what this looks like. And you also know you're going in anyway. You swim forward, kicking gently. The tunnel curves, not smoothly, but with deliberate angles. Every 20 meters, another glowing groove spirals upward. You pass one. It dims after you go by. Like it's recording your presence. Like it's keeping score. The temperature here is wrong. Not hot, not cold, just off. You feel lightheaded, not from oxygen, from proximity. To what? You couldn't say, but your brain knows you're getting closer to something it was never designed to understand. And then you feel the water change again. Viscous, not thicker exactly, but richer, like swimming through memory instead of liquid. Every kick feels like it echoes softly like a whisper, 2 seconds too late. Your hand brushes the wall. Another carving. Different this time. Not a spiral. A symbol that looks almost insect-like. A split oval, legs radiating, a center eye. You blink, and then it blinks back. It doesn't move. Doesn't shift. But something about the groove acknowledges you. Like a door creaking open inside a dream. You keep moving, slower now. You remember an odd fact: there are lakes beneath the Antarctic ice that have been sealed off for millions of years. One of the most famous, Lake Vostok, lies nearly 4 kilometers below the surface. In 2012, scientists drilled into it. A few microbes were found. Some were familiar, some weren't. And then the hole froze shut again like a mouth closing. You wonder how many lakes they didn't find. This tunnel feels like it leads to one of them. Or to the thing that makes lakes. The tunnel begins to widen. You smell salt now, sharp and strange. A chemical sting in your mouth that shouldn't exist in this enclosed environment. You recognize it: methane clathrates. Trapped gas pockets that sometimes burp up from the seafloor. Except this doesn't smell dead. It smells ancient. You reach the end of the tunnel. A thin veil of bubbles clings to the exit. You drift through them. They tickle your skin. 1,000 tiny fingers brushing you as if checking for something. And then you're inside it. A cavern. Huge. Too big. The walls are semi-organic stone interlaced with what looks like tendon or sinew, but fossilized. Like a being built a nest here and let the nest become rock over millennia. In the center is water. Deep. Perfectly still. Like a black mirror cut into the floor. You float above it. Then something breaks the surface. Just barely. A ripple. Not from you. From below. You lean in squinting. Then you see it. Eyes. Not glowing. Just reflecting two oily circles catching your shadow. Set wide apart, farther than any predator's gaze should be. It's resting just under the surface. Watching. No movement, no aggression, just presence. You remember how Greenland sharks' eyes become home to parasitic copepods? How they go blind but still navigate flawlessly? You wonder what kind of creature this is, something that doesn't need sight or something that lent its sight away centuries ago, because down here there's nothing worth seeing. Only feeling. The water ripples again. This time you don't move. And you realize it's not curious. It's deciding. Above you, the cavern's ceiling throbs. Very faintly. You only see it because the spiral carvings have begun to light again faster now. One by one, cascading around the perimeter like dominoes waking from stasis. You're being watched, not just by what's beneath you, by the entire structure. You think of sonar, of echolocation. You imagine every heartbeat you've had since entering this place being charted, mapped, interpreted, and you realize this place isn't just alive, it's aware. Historians still debate whether life in subglacial environments could evolve intelligence. The pressure, the cold, the isolation, all conditions that make communication impossible. But maybe the point wasn't to communicate, maybe it was to listen. Something under the water exhales. You don't hear it. You feel it. A pressure release that echoes in your sinuses. Your thoughts scatter for a moment. Your childhood. A dream you had last year. The smell of warm pennies. Then the eyes sink beneath the surface. Gone. The carvings dim again. Silence. And then the spiral nearest to you begins to pulse with light 3 times. A pause. Then again. A pattern. It's not random. It's language. And now you're part of the sentence. The pulses continue, 3 short flashes, a pause, then 3 more. They're not urgent, they don't scream, but you feel each one vibrate against your ribs like a low knock on a hollow wall. You tilt your head toward the nearest spiral. Its edges are no longer sharp. They pulse with soft light, but the shape itself has melted just slightly, like wax beneath a flame that isn't visible. And then you see it, something's moving inside the wall. You drift closer, the mirror-like pool beneath you now forgotten. Behind the spiral, beneath the semi-translucent stone or cartilage or whatever this wall used to be, something is coiled. A loop of dense, matte, black, possibly flesh, possibly not. You can't tell if it's muscle or mineral, but it's definitely awake. And then it moves. One slow uncoiling, just a fraction of a twist. But that's enough to make the spiral pulse change. Now it flickers faster, then slower. A breath pattern, and you're the one breathing, because your own chest now rises and falls in sync with the pulses. You try to stop, you can't. You remember an odd fact: sharks don't have rib cages. Their organs are suspended, floating in place, protected by thick cartilage instead of bone. If this structure is an evolved descendant of something like that, something that was never meant to stop growing, it might not even have a concept of inside or outside. Just being. A noise flares behind you, low and deep, like a submarine groaning under too much pressure. You turn too fast and accidentally kick a rock on the cavern floor. It rolls, vanishes over the edge of the pool. You never hear it hit the bottom. You turn back to the spiral. Now it's gone. In its place is an opening, a hole in the wall perfectly round and softly lit. Not carved, not torn, grown. as if the structure decided it was time for a door. The temperature drops, only slightly, but enough for your visor to fog for half a second, then clear as the environment adjusts itself around you. You're no longer a visitor. You're a participant. You drift toward the new tunnel. It curves upward at a gentle angle. As you enter, the texture beneath your hands changes, no longer slick stone or mineral. Now, it's fibrous like the inside of a whale's mouth. Like baleen, if baleen could hum. Each touch sends a soft vibration up your arms. It's not painful, it's rhythmic and familiar. You don't know why. You keep going. The tunnel ends abruptly in another chamber, this one circular with a high-domed ceiling. No pool here, no water beneath you, just a raised platform in the center made of overlapping discs that shimmer faintly like polished jet. Something sits on it. You think it's a skeleton. It isn't. It's too complete. No bones, no rot, just a shape. The suggestion of a shark or something close, but stretched. Too long, its fins have folded into limbs. Its snout has narrowed into something more serpentine. And around its neck there's a thick ring of overlapping plates, armor, or anatomy you can't tell. Its curled tail around body unmoving, but not dead, because it breathes, slowly. A long inhale that pushes the plates upward. A longer exhale that rattles the chamber like a sigh through centuries. You watch it for a minute, two. Then it speaks. Not in words, not even in sounds. In pressure. The chamber tightens, then loosens. You feel a rhythm bloom in your ears. And then the floor beneath you flexes. You drop a meter suddenly as the floor dips like a heartbeat under a bed of sand. And you realize this chamber isn't for communication. It's for recording. You're standing on a memory. The creature in the center inhales again, and this time, your own mind fills with flashes. Not images, sensations. The smell of crushed ice, the weight of time against a rib cage, the slow drifting of tectonic plates. This thing has lived through it all. The freezing of Antarctica, the first snowfall that didn't melt, the loss of sun, the whales that came, the whales that vanished. And now, you hear a snap, sharp, clean. The floor beneath you tightens again, and then something unfolds in the walls around the chamber. Screens. No, not digital, not glass. Membranes. Thin, translucent sheets stretch outward like jellyfish bells. And within them, shadows start to move. You watch, and what you see is impossible. Primitive sharks, larger than buses, swim through flooded forests. Great ferns brush their bellies as they glide over root-choked riverbeds. Then a slow transition, trees vanish. Ice creeps in. The sharks slow, their shapes shift. Then the cities. Not ours, not even theirs. Stone formations built in spirals nestle between cliffs and sea vents. You see columns, runes, sloped tunnels filled with glow, and more of the same creatures, long armor, drifting through what you now realize is not water, but something thicker, like oil, like dream stuff. The creature before you exhales again, and the vision ends. Historians still debate whether Earth has ever hosted intelligent aquatic life. We know dolphins, octopuses, and certain whales show complex behavior, but nothing with written language, nothing with architecture. But this chamber suggests otherwise. This is not a feeding ground. It's a sanctuary, no more than that. A vault. You float in silence, surrounded by the breath of the thing that remembers. Then something shifts behind you. A low scrape, wet, deliberate. You turn, and something that was not here before is now crawling across the ceiling. Not a shark, not a whale. Something with too many fins and too few rules of anatomy. Its body flows like mercury with bones. Its head is flat, almost beak-like, with a line of filamented teeth flickering in and out like antennae. It looks at you and smiles, or at least does something that feels like smiling. And then it opens its jaw. But nothing comes out, because the sound isn't for your ears. It's for the walls. The sound doesn't travel, not the way you're used to. It doesn't ripple out and echo through the chamber it folds in. It collapses around itself like a dying star. The walls react instantly. Every surface shudders. The jelly-like memory membranes retract as if pulled by invisible hands. The carvings retreat into themselves. Even the platform holding the curled, ancient shark begins to dim its black discs, pulsing once, then flattening like the breath was knocked out of time. You spin toward the ceiling. The creature is still there, half dripping, half hanging like some misremembered eel. It has too many joints in the wrong places. Its body flexes in slow spirals as it crawls along the upper curve of the dome, whispering silent sound against the stone. And the room listens. Every pulse it gives off causes a change. Tiny fractures appear in the walls, too controlled to be damage. The air or the water, you're not sure which anymore, feels denser, as if your thoughts are being laminated in ancient pressure. You start to drift backward, not retreating, just creating space. You think it might be polite, or maybe just instinct, like how you don't stand too close to a cathedral's altar when something's about to begin. Suddenly, your body jerks, not by force, by invitation. The walls around you ripple with a new frequency, not the heartbeat rhythm, not the glow from earlier, something tighter, sharper, a message. You reach out, without meaning to, palm flat against the wall, and feel a vibration that isn't just tactile. It's narrative. It pushes into you like an idea you forgot you believed in. Images hit you in bursts, not visual ones, physical ones. The tension of being hunted, the stillness of long hibernation, the ecstasy of continental drift, yes, somehow even that. You feel tectonic plates shifting beneath your gut like a warm ocean current. Then something colder. You see remember metal entering water. Propellers, steel. The sudden hiss of warmth trying to violate silence. You know this sensation. Humans came here, and they weren't alone. Back in the Cold War, a team of Soviet engineers tried to map seismic vibrations under Antarctica. That's a fact. Their base Vostok station still stands, but the real mystery. A day when their sonar arrays short-circuited, cables melted, a technician went missing. Officially, it was a thermal event. Unofficially, rumors. You feel the event now through this chamber's memory. A probe descending through bored ice. Then a sudden stop. Something pulled it. And the creature on the ceiling, the mercury-boned whisper thing, is showing you how. It wasn't hunting. It was defending. Whatever this vault is, this chamber you stumbled into, it was never meant to be discovered by humans, and certainly not dissected. You take a breath. The creature finally drops from the ceiling. It doesn't splash. It lands like a thought, landing in your head too quietly to resist, too loudly to ignore. It slinks along the wall, never quite touching the ground. Its filaments sway lazily. You realize they're not teeth, they're sensors. Feeling the room, feeling you. You glance back at the curled creature on the platform, still unmoving, still breathing. And then the wall directly behind it begins to open. It doesn't split or crack, it deforms. Bows outward like fabric pressed from behind, then tears cleanly revealing another chamber. You don't step in, because something steps out. It's not large, no more than your size. Shark-shaped but upright, sleek and symmetrical in a way nothing should be at this depth. Its skin is smooth, not scaled but translucent with lines beneath, like old circuitry. Its face is blank, but where eyes should be, there are two faintly glowing orbs. They don't blink. They narrow. You don't feel threatened, you feel classified. This thing is processing you. And then it gestures. A hand, fin, limb. Something lifts slowly and beckons. Not with fingers, with gravity. The water around you shifts, forming a corridor of softened pressure leading toward the new room. You follow. Of course you follow. Because at this point you understand you're not a trespasser anymore. You're a question mark that finally got someone's attention. The new chamber is smaller, more intimate. The walls are darker, almost obsidian, with ridges like gills opening and closing in slow pulses. At the center, floating unsupported, is a sphere, Not big, maybe basketball-sized, but glowing softly from within. And inside it, you don't know what you see. Shapes swim there, fast and slow, big and tiny. Some look like ancient sharks. Some look like the thoughts of ancient sharks. Others are impossible to name things with too many angles and too much stillness. You float closer, and the sphere flickers once, then flares. A projection rises around you, not from the sphere but from the space. A map. No, not Earth, not just Earth. Continents drift, oceans recede, then rise again. You see Earth not as it is, but as it was, as it will be. You see Antarctica thaw, not in a melting kind of way, in a remembering kind of way. Forests bloom again. Rain pulses across vast inland seas. The ice is gone. And in those waters, shadows, dozens, hundreds, sharks, not like now, not slow and blind, but fast, awake, restored. And then you understand what the vault is. It's not storage. It's sleep mode. And someone, maybe you, maybe the Soviets, maybe time itself just hit the wake button. You're still standing in front of the sphere, though standing doesn't mean much down here. You're suspended in water that hasn't seen sunlight in millions of years, watching a glowing orb display the Earth like it remembers all its past selves and maybe one or two futures that haven't happened yet. The projection fades, not abruptly. More like the last glow from an old CRT screen lingering before it surrenders to shadow. The humanoid shark thing, the one that beckoned you in here, hasn't moved. Not a step, not a fin twitch, but you know it's still watching you. Not with eyes. Those dull illuminated orbs aren't scanning, they're recording. You feel yourself cataloged, not threatened, just logged. A ripple passes across the sphere, then another. Something is responding, not in the room, beneath it. You glance down. The floor has changed. You didn't notice it before, but now it pulses in soft waves, concentric circles expanding outward from the sphere like sonar. The stone under you feels alive, not in the metaphorical sense, in the biological one. You're standing on something that once breathed, possibly still does. The sphere pulses a third time. Then something else answers. A pressure wave hits you, not hard but so sudden that it makes your suit groan. A resonance. It vibrates inside your chest, skipping past your ears entirely. For a moment, you're sure you heard a voice. Not in English, not in any language. But it still says one thing. Below. You turn. The humanoid is gone. Just gone. Not swum away, not faded. It's as if it was never there, except the water where it stood is still rippling. Something just stepped out of time and the current is trying to remember its shape. The jellyfish light in the walls dims. The ridged gills in the stone go quiet. Then another pressure thump. This one's deeper. You look up, half expecting the ceiling to crack open and swallow you whole. But it doesn't come from above. It comes from beneath the sphere. A seam opens. Slow, seamless. A perfectly round hole about a meter across yawns in the floor beneath the glowing globe. The sphere doesn't fall in. It just hovers like it's tethered to nothing. A shaft descends into darkness below, and unlike everything else you've passed through in this place, it's not carved. It's smooth, perfectly cylindrical, and from it rises a sound that makes your eardrums twitch. Not words, not a hum, a kind of thudding whistle. Like wind being dragged through muscle. You feel it in your gut. You drop slowly through the hole. There's no resistance, no change in current, just a single downward drift like gravity itself decided to loosen the leash. The tunnel walls are polished but soft, almost skin-like. Occasionally you pass small spirals embedded in the surface, familiar now. The language of this place. They don't glow, they listen. And now you understand why the sharks followed tectonic tremors. They weren't just following prey. They were following instructions. You land in the lower chamber, if you could call it that. It's not built the way the others are. No dome, no gills, no glowing runes. This space is massive, flat, like the bottom of a drained ocean basin. It stretches farther than you can see, the darkness interrupted only by the soft flickering outlines of motion. Dozens of them, some sharks, others not. You hover above the floor, which glistens faintly with biofilm, some ancient stew of pressure-hardened microbes and who knows what else. The water here is heavier, richer, like swimming through blood someone froze for 1,000,000 years and then forgot to label. Off to your right, something enormous stirs. A tail, maybe? It slides across the basin floor like a glacier warming up. You turn left instead. There's a structure in that direction. Not a building, a device. Huge, spiraled, with ribs extending from it in radial spokes like a flattened sea urchin. It pulses, not brightly, but in sync with your heartbeat now. Not your heartbeat exactly, but the one you've been syncing to since you arrived. The ancient 12-second rhythm that seems to rule everything down here. You float closer. It's made of cartilage, not rock, not metal, grown. And at the center, another eye. Not spherical, flat, a lens, black, watching. You're being scanned. And not just for heat or movement or basic anatomy, you feel it burrow through your memories like fingers leafing through an old notebook. You get flashes. Your first swim lesson, the sharp cold of a soda can against your lips, your grandmother's laugh when you fell off a tricycle, and then it stops. Because something behind the lens judges you worthy. You're not honored. You're not chosen. You're just compatible. The lens blinks. A sudden whoosh of water surrounds you. Not violent, but undeniable. The basin begins to rotate just slightly, like an eye-adjusting focus. The ground itself isn't turning. The field is. The creatures, dormant, coiled quiet, begin to unfurl. Not all, but some. 4 or 5 of them now swim toward the device in slow, ritualized arcs. They don't look at you, but they all blink in sequence. 3 times. Then once. Then none. You remember an odd fact. Cephalopods like octopuses can communicate using chromatophores, color-changing cells in their skin. It's not language like ours, but it's still communication. What if sharks evolved their own visual signal code? You just watched one. You glance down. Your feet hover inches above a spiral now. Unlike the others, this one glows red. It pulses twice, and you hear the voice again. Not a scream, a reminder. We do not sleep. We dream outward. The water around you begins to rise, slowly, almost invisibly. You're being returned, elevated. Whatever you've touched, whatever you've been allowed to witness, it's over now. But not for them. The creatures drift back to rest. The lights dim. The lens closes. And as the shaft seals behind you, one thought remains. These sharks aren't survivors. They're sentinels. And they've been dreaming on purpose. The ascent is quiet. Too quiet. Not in the peaceful, meditative way you'd expect after such a revelation. No. This quiet feels like the breath before something. The hush you get just before a tide turns, or the moment when a theater goes dark before the first spotlight hits the stage. Your body rises slowly through the shafts surrounded by walls that no longer shimmer or pulse. They're dull now, like the system's been powered down. Or maybe it's been closed off from you. Either way, you're not being invited any deeper. You've seen what you were meant to see. And it's not done with you yet. You break the surface of the upper chamber. The sphere is gone. So is the humanoid sentinel. The walls are blank, silent. The spirals are dim, no longer glowing. Na mana so is. Only one thing remains. Teeth. A single set. Embedded in the floor where the platform used to be. They weren't there before. You're sure of it. And they don't belong to any living shark. They spiral backward. Not outward like a predator meant to bite and release. They fold inward, growing sharper as they go. You move closer. The teeth are arranged in a perfect whorl. Something ancient paleontologists once called a tooth whorl found in a long-extinct genus called Helicoprion, a shark-like creature from the Permian age with a buzzsaw for a jaw. For decades, scientists debated how the teeth fit into the animal's mouth up front, like a curling blade, or deeper in the throat, pulling prey inward and down like a conveyor belt of regret. No one ever agreed. Some things were never meant to be reconstructed. You lower your body and hover just above the spiral. Your breath catches. Because you realize this isn't just a fossil, it's growing. The teeth are not stone. They're soft at the base, hardening at the tip. And if you tilt your head just slightly, you can see that the world doesn't stop at the floor. It descends. Like a chute, like a throat. You pull back quickly. A ripple runs through the chamber just once. A warning. A laugh. You turn toward the tunnel that brought you in. Except now there's a current pulling at your back. You paddle forward, but the water isn't cooperating. It's not pushing you out, it's guiding you. Sideways. A new passage opens smooth and silent, appearing in the wall like a sliding door. No flash, no ceremony, just an invitation made of water pressure and polite threats. You drift in. This tunnel is narrower, darker, and your lights start to flicker. One by one, your suit systems begin to act like they're under the influence of something older than electricity. Your compass spins. Your oxygen reader resets. Even your HUD, your heads-up display, blinks out, leaving only a faint echo of text, "Sist, os, sti overridden." You turn it off. Might as well. The tunnel tightens. And then it opens again into a gallery. Yes, that's the right word. A gallery. This chamber isn't for sleeping or dreaming or remembering. It's for showing. And what it shows is teeth. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. Embedded in the walls. Spiraled. Barbed, serrated, smooth. Some curved like scythes, others flat like bone saws. They're not arranged randomly. They're lined up in rows, cataloged like museum pieces. Some are polished. Others still drip with something dark and syrupy. Each has a marking beside it, a small groove, another spiral, or an arrangement of dots. You float past slowly, a silent visitor in the Museum of Moz. One set of teeth catches your attention, 3 rows, triangular, pearly white, but tipped with black enamel. You recognize them. These are the kind you've seen in great whites. Apex predator. Iconic. You move on. Next, larger, duller, ancient, possibly from a megalodon. The jaws are too big to belong to anything else. These teeth aren't sharp anymore, they're worn down. But they still radiate menace, like a retired god that hasn't stopped lifting weights. And then you reach it. The last one, a spiral, just like the one embedded in the floor earlier, but longer, sharper, cleaner, almost new. You stare at it. The dots next to it don't look decorative, they look recent. Etched in with precision, like a date. You squint. It's today's date. Today, now, a low clicking begins. Not loud. Not mechanical, biological. You turn. There's something on the ceiling. Again, but this time it doesn't hide. It descends. Slowly. It doesn't swim. It crawls. With movements like a manta ray learning how to dance. Its face is flat. Its eyes are buried. Its mouth is not where it should be. It's along the chest. A vertical slit that yawns open as it lowers toward you. The teeth in that mouth are identical to the spiral in the wall. You try to move, but the current pins you in place. Not with brute force, with suggestion. This thing isn't a predator in the way you understand. It's an executor. You remember an odd fact: ancient sharks didn't just evolve into modern ones. Many branches of their evolutionary tree ended abruptly, some absorbed into new lineages, others erased by extinction events. But not all extinctions are natural. Some are curated. Historians still debate whether humans will leave behind a fossil record that's intelligible in 10 million years. Plastics. Yes. Steel. Maybe. But understanding context. Almost certainly not. But these creatures, they'll remember. Because they don't archive with ink or carbon. They archive with bone. The thing draws closer. Its mouth closes not with hunger, with acknowledgement. And then gently, it touches your chest with one fin. A single pulse travels into your ribs, and something inside you changes. Not physically, but you've been tagged. Like a data point. A new species logged into the gallery. You back away, heart thudding. And just before the tunnel closes behind you, the teeth spiral on the wall, wink a shimmer of enamel under the faintest trace of light. Welcome to the collection. You float backward through the now narrowing corridor pulse, thrumming against your ears like the echoes of footsteps you shouldn't be able to hear underwater. Behind you, the tooth gallery fades into shadow. The spiral, the executor, the eerie wink of enamel they don't follow. But you know you're not alone. The pressure in the water has changed again. You've felt it enough by now to know what it means. Something large has entered the network of chambers. Not fast, but certain. And it's not interested in being seen. You push forward. This tunnel feels different. Not biological like the others. Its surfaces are smooth, artificial, almost metallic though corroded with time. You run a hand along the wall and feel grooves, tiny notches and sequences, like someone once etched messages with a needle and then walked away from language forever. The corridor widens just slightly, enough to see ahead. A long chamber opens up, rectangular, now not organic. It looks like a vault, not for relics, for ritual. The walls are carved with spiraling symbols again, but these ones are jagged, incomplete, scarred by impact. Some are fractured across the middle, like a quake split the glyphs. Others have been patched over with strange seals, stone welded to stone, with a substance that seems melted but not by fire. It reminds you of frozen sap. Glossy, almost amber-like. You drift closer, then pause. There's sound again. But it's not pressure-based this time. It's real sound, vibrating through the water like a bow across cello strings. It's music. At least, it feels like music. Long, drawn-out tones. Not melodic, not even rhythmic. Just intentional, like the planet humming a note to itself. And it's coming from the center of the chamber. A platform. You don't approach, not right away, because what's lying there isn't dead. It's remembering how to live. The creature is huge. Shark-shaped, yes, but elongated in a way that makes scale impossible to judge. Its skin is patterned like waves over sand dunes, light, dark, light, dark. The effect makes it seem to ripple even when still. Its dorsal fin is torn. Its gills pulse slowly. And where the eyes should be, there's nothing. Just smooth skin. As if eyes were never necessary. The sound increases in pitch. Not louder, just higher. The kind of sound that makes your molars tingle and your vision blur. You steady yourself against the wall, and the moment your hand touches it, the carvings pulse. Only once. But that's enough. The creature stirs. Its tail lifts. Its jaw flexes. Its spiraled teeth emerge, folding outward like a paper trap, spiraling just slightly like the whirl you saw earlier. You've seen that shape now in too many places to call it coincidence. These aren't random biological quirks. They're a design language, a signature. You glance behind you. No one, no fin, no presence. But you feel something watching. A memory, maybe, or a recording. You remember an odd fact. Sharks can detect electromagnetic fields through ampullae of Lorenzini jelly-filled pores in their snouts. They can sense the electricity in a beating heart. Some researchers speculate that deep-sea sharks can even detect tectonic activity. But what if that wasn't the limit? What if they weren't just sensing electricity? What if they were sensing intention? The creature on the platform opens its mouth fully now. Not wide, but deep. The teeth spiral inward into darkness like an invitation into a place you were never meant to name. And then it speaks. Not with words, not with vibration, but with memory. You see flashes, glaciers forming, continents splitting, a meteor breaking apart in the sky and missing, never reported in human history because it was caught by the ocean and swallowed by beings who didn't care for fire. You see a whale carcass falling in slow motion. You see ancient cities not human beneath the sea, their spirals long collapsed, their builders long since adapted or abandoned. You see a chamber just like this one, but on the other side of the world. And you realize this isn't the only vault. This isn't the only memory. This is just yours. You were selected not because of your intelligence or your bravery or even your proximity. You were selected because your heart beat the right rhythm. 12 seconds. The creature closes its mouth slowly. The sound fades, and then a click. Not from it. From the far side of the chamber, you turn slowly. There's another figure there. Not a shark. A man. Or what used to be one. He's suspended in water, eyes wide open, body encased in translucent membrane. His skin is wrinkled, bloated. But there's no rot, no decay. He's preserved, and he's still breathing barely. His chest rises. Once. Then again, it's not possible, and yet here he is. A Cold War survivor, one of the Soviet engineers. You drift closer. His dog tags catch the light from your flickering suit. Cyrillic letters. Titov. Titov. You remember the rumors. One technician vanished during the Vostok incident. Never found. Officially listed as lost to a thermal event. Not lost. Recruited. His eyes twitch as you near. His fingers flex slow and creaky like vines in wind. He sees you, and he's not surprised. You feel it again, that click, that acknowledgement. Another memory added to the vault. Not a fossil, not a ghost, a witness. You realize what these creatures have done. They don't just archive bones or teeth or genetic drift. They archive the things watching them. You, me, us. We are part of the museum now. And the price of entry was one heartbeat. You're still staring at him, Titov. His eyes float in his skull like planets that haven't orbited in years. Not dead. Not really alive. Just placed. Like a photograph sealed in glass waiting for someone to recognize the face. A small burst of air escapes his lips, forming a cluster of bubbles that rise slowly. As they pass your shoulder, they shimmer oddly. Each bubble reflecting not your face, but others. Faces you've never seen. Old. New. One bubble shows a young woman with braided hair, another an elder with gills cut into his neck. A child, too, eyes closed in sleep. They pass by you silently, ascending into nowhere, and vanish before touching the ceiling. You want to speak to him, but what would you say? How was your last 60 years? The chamber is quiet now. The creature on the platform has gone still again. You realize it wasn't trying to impress you with its display, it was checking for updates. And you floating there awkwardly in your pressure suit and half-processed understanding were the file it needed to scan. Around you, the teeth embedded in the walls begin to withdraw. Not into sockets, into mouths. The walls ripple. They're not solid anymore. They never were. The carvings were masks. The entire gallery is alive. And now that you've seen the witness, they no longer need to pretend. You begin to back away. A slow, even paddle. No one stops you, which is somehow worse. You reach the corridor. The wall where you entered peels open again, revealing the same dark passage, but now the spiral carvings are gone. Smooth, skin-like walls stretch in silence, no longer humming with energy. The system's shutting down. Or maybe it's shifting phases. You push forward through the tunnel. The memory of Titov's face follows you. You wonder how long he's been there. If he ever tried to leave. If he was given the same tour, the same silent approvals, the same awful smile from the executor's spiraled mouth. You wonder if he even remembers his name. You come to another junction. This time the tunnel slopes upward. You don't question it. You follow the gradient like instinct, like you've done this before. Here's an odd fact in ancient Greek mythology. The river Lethe was said to flow through the underworld, its waters granting forgetfulness. Souls would drink from it before reincarnation, wiping their memories clean. But some myths say certain souls refused the water. They chose to remember. This tunnel feels like it was carved by something that refused. You rise, slowly. The pressure eases as you ascend. Your suit adjusts automatically. Readouts flicker back on one by one like nervous apologies. O2 stabilizing. Temp normal. Comlink error. That one never changes. Then you reach the surface, or something that looks like one. It's a cavern vast and domed, but open above, revealing a sheet of translucent ice so thin it glows faintly with the filtered blue light of the Antarctic sun. You haven't seen light in hours, days. You've lost track, but the glow feels fake, like it's being projected. You turn around. There's something new in the cavern, a machine. At least it looks like one. A complex web of curved fins and tubes like a sculpture built from whale bones and aircraft parts. At its center is a spiral. Of course. But this one is open, not carved. A natural shape that curves into the ground like a conch shell wide enough to crawl into. You don't, because from that spiral a sound begins. It's not a roar, it's not a hum, it's a voice. Not words, but breath threaded with meaning. It spills out into the chamber and you realize it's speaking to the ice. The ceiling rumbles. Not a collapse, a response. You stare upward and through the ice faint shadows move. Sharks. Dozens, maybe more, drifting just beneath the surface, their outlines warped by the glassy crust above. They're not hunting. They're not curious. They're circling. Something about their formation feels intentional, not protective, not aggressive, like a ritual. You realize they're circling the exit, and you understand why. You're not meant to leave, at least not unchanged. You drift toward the center of the chamber past the spiral machine. The temperature drops slightly. Your breath fogs inside the helmet. The ice above cracks, not shatters. Just a long, slow fracture that zips across the ceiling like a lazy lightning bolt. And now you hear the clicking again. From the spiral, from above, from behind. It's not random. It's a countdown. You glance over your shoulder. The spiral teeth from the lower gallery. The ones that cataloged your heartbeat, they're here now, smaller. Embedded into the far wall glowing red. They blink once, then again, then they go dark. The sharks above stop circling and drift away, not like they've lost interest, like their part is done. The voice in the chamber fades. The spiral goes still. You're alone again, but not the same. Because as you move toward the narrow exit at the edge of the chamber, you feel it a pressure in your chest. Not physical, deeper. Something has been placed in you. Not an implant, not a parasite. A task. You don't know what it is yet, but you'll know when it begins. You reach the exit shaft. It angles up sharp and fast, like a tunnel bored straight through the ice in one angry motion. You follow it without hesitation. The light above grows brighter. And then you breach. The ocean greets you. Cold. Familiar. Distant icebergs bob in the gray-blue distance. Snow falls lightly. The surface is silent. There's no sign of where you've been. No spiral. No mouth. No vault. Just sea. And silence. Until you look down and notice your shadow has teeth. You float in the open water just beneath the skin of the sea, the sky above a slate of overcast nothingness. The icebergs have drifted in, forming a loose perimeter around your exit point, like the teeth of a jaw slowly beginning to close. The surface churns gently. But below the water is still. Too still. You stare downward, and the sea stares back. Your shadow shouldn't have teeth, but it does. You see them clearly now, not jagged, not flared in aggression, just precise. A row of backward spiraling impressions that stretch from your chest to your waist like an echo carved from bone. You reach out instinctively as if to swipe the shadow away. It follows. Of course it does. You remember now. Somewhere between the executor's gaze and the vault's retreating light, something was transferred into you. Or unlocked. It's hard to say which, but it's with you now. And it's watching. Below a shark stirs. It's close. Much closer than you expected. Silent, massive, and drifting upward like a cathedral on the move. Its shape is familiar Greenland shark you think at first, but this one is broader. Its skin is mottled not with age but with pattern. The whorls of its back look like a blueprint someone tried to forget. It stops just a few meters below you, suspended in perfect balance. You feel it observing you, not like prey, like inventory. This one doesn't approach, it doesn't threaten, but it knows. And in that stillness between you, a low sound pulses through the water. Like the deep creak of a ship's hull, the bending of pressure against something that's been still for far too long. You brace, but it doesn't attack. Instead, it opens its mouth. And from that mouth, something drifts upward. Not a voice. A tooth. It's small, perfect, spiraled, and glowing red. It rises slow and delicate like a gift no one ever wanted to receive. You catch it without thinking, your palm closing around it like muscle memory. Instantly, the temperature around you drops. Not the water, just you. Your suit fogs. Your vision warps at the edges. The tooth pulses in your hand once, twice, and then you see something. A face. Not human. Not shark. Something between. It's not in front of you, it's behind your eyelids. It speaks not aloud, but in the voice of everything you've heard since descending. A whisper carried on pressure tucked into memory. This is the map. You blink. And suddenly, you're no longer floating. You're standing, somehow, on ice. Your feet are planted on a frozen shelf, vast and flat and impossibly empty. No sea, no horizon, just white stretching in every direction. A memory, a vision. It doesn't matter, because ahead of you is a shape. A massive spiral carved into the ice at least 200 meters across. Each arm of the spiral is lined with fossilized teeth. Hundreds, thousands, each pointing inward. In the center stands a spire. It's shaped like a tooth, or a tower, or both. The air is still, but you hear movement beneath the ice. Faint, a shuffling. The spiral lights up tooth by tooth. A path. You step forward. 1 pace. 2. On the third, the voice returns. You will return before the next ice. You stop, but you already understand. You've been tagged, cataloged, not just for observation, for retrieval. You weren't the first to enter the vault. You won't be the last, but you may be the first to leave with something still alive inside you. You blink again, and you're back in the ocean, floating. The tooth is gone from your palm, but your fingers are cold now, even inside the suit, colder than they should be. You glance at your shadow again, still there, still smiling. You begin to swim toward the surface. A research vessel sits quietly in the distance. They've been waiting for you, maybe. Or maybe they only just found your beacon. Your arms move in slow practice strokes. You feel tired, but not alone. Here's an odd fact: sharks have electroreception, yes, but humans do too. Very faint, very underdeveloped, but it's there. The ability to sense fields, patterns. Maybe that's what the vault was exploiting, not just biology. Willingness. Historians still debate whether ancient myths of sea monsters were metaphor or warning. The ones who say metaphor never dove this deep. You surface slowly. The ship's lights reflect off the dark water like scattered stars. A winch lowers. A voice calls your name, tinny and distant. You don't respond. You don't need to, because deep below you something shifts. Not a creature, a system, and it knows the map has left its chamber and started walking. You lie on the deck, now suit dripping, breath heaving. The research crew crowds around, eyes wide with concern. Someone's yelling your name probably, but it doesn't feel like it belongs to you anymore. That name was for before. Before the spiral, before the vault. Before the dream became a current that dragged you under and whispered things into your ribs. A voice asks, "Are you injured?" You nod. Not because it's true, but because no would take too long to explain. They run scans, fuss with your helmet, ask what you saw. You say nothing. Not out of fear, but because every word you could offer is wrong. Too human, too shallow, like describing a glacier in emojis. They pull something from your suit, a fragment wedged in a side pocket you don't remember opening. It's the tooth. The spiral one. Red glow long gone. Now it looks like polished stone. Like a souvenir. They turn it in gloved hands, confused. You see them mouth phrases like artificial and we didn't give this to them, right? You don't correct them, because in that moment the tooth is just a rock. Until someone sets it down. And it spins. Not fast, not showy. Just a lazy little twirl across the metal table. And the room goes quiet. You feel it first in your fingertips like a rhythm beneath the skin. Then your chest, your jaw. Each pulse, spaced 12 seconds apart. The others don't feel it yet. Not really, they just look confused, a little dizzy. Someone checks the ship's stabilizers. Another blames the altitude sickness despite being at sea level. But you know, the pattern's in them now too. Not fully. Not yet. But it's starting. You step away from the table. Someone jokes, you bring anything else up with you and laughs. You smile. You almost say just the future. But the room wouldn't understand. Not until the dreams begin. And they will. Because what lives beneath Antarctica doesn't want to be worshipped. Doesn't want to be found. It just wants to remember itself through you. A slow archive. A quiet replication. One heart at a time. You move to the railing and look out over the water. Gray. Still. Innocent. For now. Below things stir again. You can't see them. But you don't need to. The dreaming has resumed. And now one of the dreams is walking around with your face. Beneath the Antarctic ice in a world untouched by sunlight and nearly forgotten by time, you follow the slow, silent movements of ancient sharks creatures older than memory, drifting through currents that felt more like dream than ocean. But what began as curiosity became something else entirely. In the depths, you encountered vaults not built but grown. You witnessed rituals without language, memories stored not in bone or blood, but in pressure, light, and sound. You discovered that these creatures, these watchers, were not just surviving. They were archiving, waiting, dreaming outward into time. You were scanned, absorbed, cataloged, not by malice, but by purpose. You met others' witnesses like you suspended in the deep remembered but never released. You understood that these ancient beings don't sleep. They persist. Their spiraled teeth weren't tools of violence. They were signatures. Keys. And you willingly or not became a carrier of one. Now, returned to the surface, the world looks the same. But something has changed. You carry it. A rhythm, a symbol, a seed of memory passed to you, like a gift that grows when you sleep. The sharks below are still circling. Not for you, for the next. Because the vault is open now. And once something begins to dream through you, it never stops.